Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF. Bava Metzia DAF Samach Vav. We are holding on Samach Amud Beis, 4 lines from the bottom. Hau Gavra. It was a story about a fellow. He sold his property to another person. Shaloi b'achrayis, but this time he did not undertake any responsibility. He didn't warranty the sale. Okay, so if anything happens, suppose Ruvain's bank comes and repossesses this property on account of a defaulted loan, Reuven is not going to compensate Shimon for that loss. Chazi, so the seller notices that the buyer, Shimon, is a little bit disappointed. The hava ka'atziv. Amarle, he says, Amay atzivas, what's the matter? Look, you're concerned about the lack of warranty. I'll back it up totally. If they come and grab it from you, guess what? I will compensate you. Shufar, from my highest quality property, from my best assets. I will give you everything, the actual cost of the property, and not only that, I'm going to add shuvcha, any improvement that you have, invested in this property, uperi, any crop that you will lose to the bank when repossessed, I will back that all up for you. So interestingly, at the time of sale, he clearly stipulated otherwise, but now he saw he was kind of disappointed, so he came forward and offered this very concrete promise. Amar Meimar. So Meimar says, guess what? It doesn't really hold any water. It's not legally binding. Petume mila balmu is just, buttering him up with words, just consoling him. And it's not really binding. Amar Rav Ashila Meimar, why? Why do you say that? Time am I? Well, the answer is kivan dit delekeach boilas nuye. Because typically, who makes these stipulations? The buyer. When he buys, he says, look, I'm buying it on this condition, right? So he's the one that should be making this stipulation. V'hacha, right? V'hacha here, meicher kamasni. Who's the one that stipulated? Who's the one that added these, clauses? The seller, which is atypical, right? It's not your standard procedure. So therefore, you maintain it's not serious. Amris petume mili b'amahu. We just look at it as words with carrying no weight. Is that where you're coming from? Because it was the wrong person who presented this condition. So if that's the case, what about that brisa we had yesterday? Elamas Nisa, the Tani, so the brisa says that suppose Shimon purchases a land from Reuven, and he says, look, I'm promising you that if you ever come up with money to redeem this field from me, I will return the field to you. So the buyer is actually committing himself to reselling that land to the seller in case he finds a way to buy it back. So although the buyer is going to be enjoying the benefits of this field, eating the crop all throughout, it's mutter. There's no issue of ribis. And this is in contrast to the first case in the brisa there, where the seller actually made that condition. Look, I'm selling you the field. As soon as I come up with money, you'll have to sell it back to me. In that case, we say it's usher because there's a ribis concern, because it's not really much of a sale. I mean, since one is a buyer obligated to return the item to the seller, it's not really much of a sale if it's built-in compelling obligatory condition, right? So here we look at it merely like a loan, right? It's like the buyer lent his money to the seller. It's like a loan, and he sat in the field all the while as like a fee for lending him that money. So in the first case, it's usher because it was built into the sale arrangement. Whereas in the second case, where the buyer is sort of offering, he's volunteering. Look, I'll be a nice guy. When you come up with your money, I'll give it back to you. So that's not considered, in any way diminishing the sale arrangement. It's a proper sale, but you know what? I'll sell it back to you. So in that case, there's no issue of ribbis. It's okay. Now, in this last case, right? So let's just go back to the Gemara. So if the buyer is offering, as soon as you come up with your money, I'll give it back to you, it's okay. Now who stipulated? Who made that condition? The Meicher. Again, typically the seller should be making this type of condition. I'm selling to you on this condition, right? That's not what happened. Meicher did not make the condition. It was the buyer, right? Right? So that just sort of slammed the lid on it, meaning it's a pretty clear-cut difference. It's a pretty clear-cut halacha. We fully understand that we don't consider this a condition within the sale arrangement. It's sort of like a separate promise. I'm promising to sell it back to you. Unrelated to the first purchase, I'm going to sell it back to you. But still, the Gemara kasha. The Gemara did explore the difference. Why is this halacha different than the first story where it was no good? Why was the first case Aser, it was considered like a loan with ribbis, and the second case mutter? Rav explained, Seifa, because in the second situation, it wasn't really obligatory. Seifa damali midaite, because he told him, look, it's up to you. Or if it was the buyer speaking, it's up to me. I'll just, it wasn't like it was going to be forced upon him. It was sort of self-initiated. I'll decide if I want to give it back to you, I'll give it back to you. I'm sort of, committing to consider it seriously consider that, that idea. So although he's sort of committed, but it's not an outright bona fide commitment. And therefore we deem it as a separate process. This is, today he's buying it, done. And tomorrow he'll sell it back. It's a separate deal. It's not a loan. It's sale 1 and sale 2. And that was Rav's way of explaining why it's mutter in the Seifa. Whereas in the Reisha, it was sort of included in the arrangement. It was like a stipulated condition, so it sort of throws a wrench into the whole thing. It's no longer considered a real sale. Rather, it's like more like a temporary sort of arrangement, like a loan. So clearly, the reason why it's mutter is because he left it up to him. But let's say he would not have left it up to him. He would be forced to actually sell it back. When the time comes, when the seller comes up with money. And we don't say, that the mere fact that it was the buyer who stipulated it, not the seller, which should have been the proper procedure. The fact that a buyer does it, typically, that should lead us to just treat it like pitum mili, just words without meaning, words without legal weight. That should have been adequate. Should have been enough to explain, enough of a reason to explain why it's mutter. And we don't suffice with that. We have to add the point that it was midaite, it was up to him, and it was Why do we need that added explanation? It was the wrong party. Simple as that. He says you're right. That's all we meant yesterday. The fact that it was the buyer, the wrong party, making that stipulation. It's as though they left it up to him. It was as though it was not really a full commitment. That's all it meant. So this is in contrast to the first story there, where it was the seller making that stipulation, and that's really legally binding. And that fully corresponds with today's point, that it's all about the right person stipulating. That takes us to the next story about a get. There was a fellow who was deathly ill. The Kessler Gittel, he writes a get to his wife in order to spare her from any yibum issues, with no kids. So he wrote her the get without any conditions. Ingid, and he sighs, isnach, and he's like feeling terrible. Amr Leisa, she asks him, Amaika Masnachas, why are you, looking so faint? Why are you looking so, Ikaimas tidachana. You know what, if you recover from this illness, I'm yours. So she stipulated a condition. She added that clause, so to speak, a verbal clause to the divorce document. If you get up, I'm yours. Amr of Zvid, it's worthless. Petuma mila ba'amu, it's just, words without meaning. Okay, so it's not binding. She can get married to anybody she wants. Amali Rav Acha midifta Ravina. Vila petuma mili. And let's say it wasn't just, empty words. Let's say she really, truthfully committed herself. Rashi says, be'emes or b'kabbalah shvua gemura. She took an oath, right? That in fact she'll live with this condition. What would be the halacha there? It would change the equation? No. But the dok kaima lemishti tana. Since when is it up to the women to add a tanai, begita into a get? She's not the issuing party. He is. But the day kaima lemishti tana, he's the one that should be adding conditions. So discount the petuma mila issue, lack of seriousness, even if she was truthfully serious. Only he has the authority to add conditions to his get. Well, says the Gemara Maudatem, perhaps I would say, Hu gufe adaita the dog gomer. And once she announced this sort of commitment, he too, the husband as well, had that in mind. V'yov gita, and that's what he had in mind when he gave the get. It's sort of an understood. It's assumed that it was conditional upon this. Kamashman, the point is no. That we don't say that. Meaning, she didn't really mean it seriously, but otherwise, if yes, then it seems like it would be binding, and if he recovers, the get is null and void. Also there. So back to the Mishnah. Reuven lent Shimon $1 million. And Shimon committed as follows. Look, unless I repay you within 3 years, this field of mine is yours. And the field was worth $2 million, right? So Mishnah says that, it works. If he defaults, the field now reverts to Reuven totally. Amar Rav Huna b'shas matan mois kanal. It all depends when he made this condition. As he was handing in the money, he made this tanai. Look, I'm borrowing with this condition. Then, when time's up and there's no payment, he gets everything. Because, at that moment, it's serious, it's binding, it's part of the actual arrangement. La'achar matan mois, but let's say he already took the $1 million. He borrowed $1 million. Then he came back and said, you know what? Unless I repay you, you get this whole field. That's already sort of after the fact. Here, the lender will have a right to collect something, but not the entire field worth $2 million. He'll only get $1 million worth of that field. So that much commitment, yes, but not the entire field. Rav Nachman says no. Doesn't matter whether it's during the transaction or later on. If he commits, it's a full commitment. If he defaults, he has to give up the entire field. Because although it's called asmachta means he's sort of exaggerating in his commitment, in his promise. If I don't pay you back, you get the whole palace. It's binding. It's legally binding. Even though it's a sort of an exaggerated type of promise. Hoping that, he'll come up with the money and I'll have to lose the entire property. So asmachta means like semech. He's relying, he's hoping that he will not have to give up the entire thing. Still, it's binding. And in fact, Rav Nachman had such a story that was brought to him, Gabi Rish Galusa, when he was in the head of the community, the head of the Galusa in Bavel. So a story came to him, and he paskened the Kishmaite in accordance with his opinion that what? That even this sort of exaggerated promise holds true. Kare Rabbi Yehuda heard the story and he tore up the document. Null and void. Amalei Rish Galusa. So Rish Galusa turned to Rav Nachman. You should know Rabbi Yehuda Kar L'Shtarach. Rabbi Yehuda tore up your star. Null and void. Amalei, so Rav Nachman says, I mean, Rabbi Yehuda is a great man. Dardaka, just a young man, a young boy. Kare tore my star? No, Gava Rabba Kare, he was a great man. He must have a good reason. He must have a good reason. Chazal be'tayim b'kari. He must have a good reason to tear it up, because he apparently holds that a smachta is not kaina. All these exaggerated, unrealistic promises, it's just meant to sort of calm his fear. It's not really a true commitment. Ikad there was another version of the story that Rav Nachman responded as follows: Amar le dar de kakar. Yeah, he was a youngster. The kuli alma gabedidi bedina. Because with respect to Chosh Mishpat, halacha, Rav Nachman was a great expert in Chosh Mishpat. Dardik Nina, everybody relative to me is just Dardiki, meaning it's surprising that he would have tore it up. He doesn't really reach the level of my expertise, and I totally disagree with that. So that was Rav Nachman's initial approach to things. Asmachta is kaina. Hada Amar Rav Nachman. Then Rav Nachman came around and changed his opinion. Afilu b'shas matan mois. Even if the borrower makes this grand promise as he's borrowing the money, lo yikanav leklum, the lender doesn't get anything more than he deserves. And he's fake Rav Nachman. Rav asked him a kasha from the Mishnah. Unless you repay me within 3 years, I get this huge estate. What does the Mishnah say? It works. Harish alai. That's a kasha of Rav Nachman. Amar lei. So Rav Nachman responds, you're right. There's a machlekes. There's a difference of opinions regarding asmachta. Ani omer, my opinion is asmachta is kanya. I mean, that's what I thought initially. But Umenyumi, that was his name, Umenyumi, Amar, he showed me that I was wrong. He corrected me. Asmachta like kanya. And that's the opinion that I hold today. Umenyumi kashi masnis. What is Umenyumi going to do without a Mishnah? Either you can say Masnis Rabbi Yesi. It's Rabbi Yesi speaking, who's known throughout Shas to say the Amar Smachta Kanya, and the Chachamim disagree. It has to be within reason. It can't be something grand and exaggerated, because that denotes lack of seriousness. He was just trying to make a point, right? Iboy is saying another way to explain the Mishnah, which would fit with all Shittas, which sort of skirts and avoids the Asmachta issue. The Amar Le Knima Achshav. He made it a retroactive kinyan. He says, look, if we don't get repaid within 3 years, it's going to be mine starting now. So that's like a sale. So although he's getting a great deal, he's getting a $2 million property for just $1 million loan, that's okay. You can sell things at a discount. A sale is not an issue of ribbis. Remember, right? If it's an instant sale, and this is like an instant sale, even though he has to wait it out, but later on it's going to be chal, it's going to be applied retroactively. So if he defaults at the end of 3 years, it's mine starting from today, first day of the 3 years. So it's like a sale. It's like I bought it today for less. That's not a smachta. Amalei. Amalei Mar Yenuka, that was his name, and Mar Kshisha, that was his name as well. And they were the children of Bnei of Chizda. Right, he had 2 sons. One was Mar Yenuka, one was the younger one. Mar Kshisha was the older one, and they had something to say to Rav Ashi. Hachi Amri Nardoi Mishmei Rav Nachman. In the town of Nardo, the yeshiva there, they quote Rav Nachman as follows: Hayasmacht, you should know that in asmachta sometimes it works, sometimes not. Bizmane kanya. When the time is up, when the deal kicks in, it works. But before the time kicked in, before the deadline, it doesn't work. Amar Leisi says, Amar Lahu, he told him, what do you mean? I mean, it's all the time, right? Call me any type of deal. You have to wait until the time comes, right? Why is this specific to asmachta, right? Dilma, perhaps perhaps this is what you meant to say. So a fellow borrowed a huge loan, and he promised this grand promise, right? By such and such date, unless I repay you, you get this huge estate. So that's asmachta. Well, it depends. Let's say the loiver meets the malva within the prescribed time, within the 3 years, before the due date. And he says, look, you know what, just keep the land, keep the property. Why do you do that? He wasn't yet, desperate. He wasn't at the finish line. So here we say it's not really an asmachta. He's not being pressured. He's not trying to make a point. He's not trying to, assure the lender that he'll get repaid. Why is he offering the property ahead of time? Kani, so it's a real kinyan. He means it seriously. It's a legitimate kinyan. Bas or zimni. But once the time is up, 3 years are up, and he meets him in the street, he says, you know what, I don't have the money to take the property. He didn't really mean it. He's just desperate. Right? He was against the wall, so he just, conceded. But he didn't really mean to give it away. Now he tells him to keep it. He doesn't keep it. My time of why? He was just embarrassed. He didn't have the money, so he was compelled to, right? Veloy says the more it's incorrect. This distinction is incorrect. Even within the prescribed time, even prior to the deadline, it doesn't mean that he's trying to give it away. So why did he give him the green light? Because he figured, let him avoid trouble later. Because I know due date's coming soon. I don't want him knocking down my door. So in order to avoid that harassment, he's just sort of preempting it. He says, keep my land. But he didn't really mean it. It wasn't really a serious type of thing. Once again, this asmachta arrangement, sometimes it works, sometimes not. So again, if I default, you keep this huge property. Now it's the last day, it's my due date, right? And the fellow sees the borrower sitting in a bar just drinking wine calmly. Doesn't appear to be too concerned about losing his property, right? So the malva notices the loiva, the kashasi shichrish, sitting drinking wine. Kani, that's an indication of, disinterest and disregard for his property. Apparently the loiva is fully okay with the malva keeping it. But the kamahapa chazuzi, what if he notices him running around from bank to bank trying to get his money together? Like Kani. So the malva cannot keep that property. Clearly, the loiva is not okay with this transfer. Even if he's spotted in the bar drinking wine, the fellow is anxious through his mind. He's trying to alleviate his anxiety. He's drinking some wine to take away his pachat, Rashi says. It's a pasuk in Tehillim, so he's reaching to alcohol to alleviate his concern. He's not really okay with losing his property. Or you can say the reason why he's acting in such a calm manner, perhaps his good friend promised him some money, so he's calm and collective, but in no way is it an indication of indifference to losing his property. Ella Marvina says, Ravina, you're right. There's another way to indicate his, lack of concern for losing his property. So let's say he's selling off some of his assets, some of his, cars, right? And he's being makbid to get the exact value. He's not giving any discounts. Apparently he's not too desperate for money, and he doesn't seem to be too concerned about losing that property to the malva. Vaday kani, certainly he's kani. Who says? He's trying to play it smart. He's an astute businessman. Dilma Savar, maybe he's thinking he doesn't want to look desperate, because otherwise his whole estate will drop in value. So although he really is desperate to get that money together, to avoid defaulting on that loan, to avoid losing that property, but he's still trying to play it smart and appear like he's above water. So no way is there any indication of otherwise. Ella rather says Rapapa, if you see that this loiva is particular about not selling any properties. He's selling cars and all types of other items, but properties he's not offering any for sale. Apparently he's not going to great lengths to try to put together that money. And apparently he doesn't care much about losing the property which he had promised through the asmachta. Although typically, unless we have clear indications otherwise, clear indications that the fellow is not trying to hold on to that property, but typically we say asmachta is not kaina. All these exaggerated, promises are not real, are not legitimate, not genuine. Asmachta likanya. But you should know there is some sort of limited apoitiki havya. It's called an apoitiki, which allows the malvat to collect from it. So let's say he promised him this huge estate worth 2 million on account of a 1 million loan. You're right. He has no right to repossess the entire property, but 1 million worth he can get. It's called an apoitiki. Apoitiki means apoitiki. Your claim will be applied to this. It's like collateral, right? She has a right to take that much at least. Why are you saying that? He never really genuinely offered this property, even a part of it. Did he ever tell him you're going to take it to collect from it? Sorry, Mika Amarle Kni. Did he ever tell him? Yeah, you're right. Did he ever tell him that he's going to collect it? It could be kaina. He has a kinyan to be goiva to collect from it his chayiv. He never said that. All he said was, "I default. You got the entire thing," and that's an asmachta. It doesn't work. Amar lei mazutra breder murder ravina. The amar lei kni lemigmamine. You know what? Let's say you're saying he didn't say those words. Let's say he would have said kni lemigmamine. I'm granting you, rights to collect a portion of this estate on account of that defaulted loan. Kani, does it work? He's kaina. Why? Safe. At the end of the day, asmachta. It's really just an asmachta. Because remember, he said like this. He said, if I don't repay you by that due date, by 3 years, then etc. etc. That's an asmachta. He doesn't really want to give it over to him. Asmachta lekanya. Elo says, well, you're right. So Rav Papa says that even though he doesn't get the entire thing, but he gets part of it as an apoitiki. What case are we speaking of? The Amarle was speaking that the loiva told him, Lo yehelecha piroin el mizu. You should know like this. Even within the 3 years, unless I pay you up, right, you can take this, at least part of this property, and after 3 years are up, you take the whole thing. So part B is an asmachta, it's an exaggerated offer, but part A makes sense. Because he offered him the field as repayment. So true, he can't get the entire thing, but at least part of it, corresponding to the value of the loan, that he can take. Says the Gemara, Gavra, there was a person, this time he sold his property with achrayas, with, a warranty backup. Amalini says, look, so the buyer tells the seller, look, if your lenders come and repossess this field on account of your defaulted loan, I want a promise that you will give me the best of the best of your properties. Not just idis, the best of the best. Like really top-notch quality. Amalini says, look, nah, that's a little too much. I'm not going to give you top. Then I need for myself. I'll give you the best, other best. So not ziburis, the worst, not baininus, medium quality. Idis, top quality, not A+, but A. Let's say it turns out the bank seized this property from the buyer. Also bitka, but it also turns out that there was a big flood in town. Bitka, a big flood, shakali didis, which washed away and destroyed the A1 top-notch quality field that the seller had in his possession. So now all he had was regular, top quality, not top plus. So Rav Papa figured like this. Me'idis Amalei, he promised him the idis, V'okaiman, he has the idis. The idus was lost, but not the idus. No, the seller can say like this. What I meant was, I want the best by me. Now this is my best. Now I'm going to give you just a medium. When I promised you quality A, right? I refused to give you A+, but A I promised you. That's because I had A+ to work with. I had A+ by me, so I was willing to give you second best. But now I lost A+, so the A is like the A+. It's the top that I have. I don't want to give that away. And he's right to say that. Rav Bar Shava, that was his name, have a masik be Rav Kana. Rav Kana had a claim on him, lent him money. So Rav Bar Shava owed Rav Kana money, and he promised Rav Kana as follows: unless I pay you by such and such date, Gabi my chamer, you can repossess my wine, this wine right here. And it went up in value in between. So Rav Papa figured, when do we say there's issues of asmachta, exaggerated promises which don't really hold any water? That only pertains to property. The lav is when people don't sell their land, so making all these grandiose promises are not really binding. But wine, people sell wine all the time. Since it's meant to be sold, it's like you promised them money. There's no asmachta issues. So now that the material went up in price, it's Rav Kahana's game. We quoted as follows from Rabba. Even this is called asmachta because he promised them more than he deserved. The wine at the time was worth more. Called any sort of DE promise. DE means that if I don't pay you, I will give you X amount. Like honey, it doesn't work. Now we have established asmachta doesn't work. Suppose the Malva did repossess this huge estate, and now he's compelled to return it because asmachta doesn't work. What about the parents they had all along from that property? He has to return it as well. So although the Levi gave it to him willingly, he was sort of like moichel, but it's a toe, it's a mistake. It's halachically wrong. So he has to return the parents as well. Lemeimer, do you mean to say the Savar of Nachman holds mechila, beto is lahavi mechila? A mistaken forgiveness, so to speak, is not considered mechila, and he has to give it back. But itma we have learned. Would you like to buy the future fruit of my palm tree? Amar Avuna, what's the halacha? Before they're developed, before they show up. Rashi says before chanita, before the initial growth of that fruit. The seller can cancel a deal because it's not really a tangible type of deal. Once the fruit is somewhat discernible, you can no longer change your mind. You can change your mind whenever, because as Rashi says, Ein Adam Makna Davar Shalei B'Olam, unless the item was here at the time, I can't just promise things that will come in the future. So I can always change my mind because the sale took place before the fruit even existed. But Rav Nachman added a point. Even I agree, even though I say it's null and void, but let's say the buyer grabbed bought futures, in this fashion, and he actually took possession of the palm trees and had the fruit. The shamat, he grabbed the achel and he took the fruit. We don't force it back. Why? Because the seller was sort of meichel. Even though it was a toast, it was a mistake, because his whole sale was legally null and void, but the fact is, at the time, he thought it was fine, and he let him have it. Let him in it. So why, when it comes to a loan with an asmachta promise, we say, even though he repossessed, he took the thing, he has to give it back with the fruit. Some zvini, difference is over there by the fruit, by the palm tree, it was a sale. There's no issues of ribbis there. So if you let him have it, fine. But here he lent him the money. And if he repossessed this property unjustifiably, and he kept the payers, it looks like ribbis. It looks like he's getting more than he deserves. Amar Rava, so Rava says, Hava, Yosef committed Rav Nachman. At that time, when Rav Nachman made the statement that Mechila Betos is a Mechila, I was sitting in front of Rav And I had a mind to ask him a kasha. From the halacha of Aina, a person who was overcharged, he has a right to get his money back even though he gave it willingly. So although it was midas, but since it was a mistake, he gets it back. So you see that mechila betos is not mechila. V'oidik and Rav Nachman noticed my facial expression. He saw I was about to ask something to challenge his words, so he quickly preempted it by bringing a raya to his opinion. Chazit and islandess. He provided a proof. He showed me from halacha and islandess, a woman who cannot give birth. So he showed me that mechila betos is a mechila. Okay, so what happened there? So first we have a kasha from Oino. Varaya no. The mechila betos will have a mechila. What Rava meant to ask from Oino, that although he's willingly giving him that extra money, it's a mechila, but it's a tos. We say there's no mechila. He can get it back. And that's a kasha of Nachman. V'oidik chazit and islandess. And he responded with islandess. Hari islandess the mechila betosi, u'vavi mechila. If an isha on islandess gets married, it's mechila betos, as we're going to see in a minute, and we say it sticks. It's called mechila. It's not ha'ma'elnes, v'ashniya, v'islandess. Ma'elnes is an isha who's underage, who was married off by her brother or mother, because her father was no longer alive. So it's only a condition to Rabbanon, and she could just leave the marriage at will. Vashniya, a woman who was a relative, who was asked to marry him midrabbanon, va'islandess. An isha who medically couldn't have any children. So when she leaves the marriage, upon discovering this condition, all these don't have any claims. They don't have kasuba payment claims, nor mezoines if they let out money for their, support themselves. Belois, let's say she brought some, clothing into the marriage, and even if they're somewhat, they're worn out, they're somewhat there, they don't have a right to take it back. So there's all sugin and ksubis. The punchline is the second point, peiros. She had properties which belonged to her. Typically, a husband has a right to reap the fruit of that property, right? Because if she gets kidnapped, he'll have to redeem her, right? That's the arrangement. So, even though in these situations, there's no obligation upon the husband to be paid to her because it's not a proper marriage, but still she has no right to take back the peiros that he ate during that failed, mistaken marriage. Apparently, even though it was a tos, it was a mechila betos, the mechila sticks. He keeps the peiros without any need to remunerate. Says the Gemara, actually, v'lohi. This whole thing is incorrect. Loi oina v'tuyivte, v'loi islandess mesayele. The halacha of oina is not a kasha of Nachman, nor is the story of the islandess going to be a rioter of Nachman. It's unrelated. You know why? Loi oina tuyivte. The halacha of oina is not a kasha. The lo yada the isay oina the machal gabe. He had no clue that he was overpaying. It's not mechila. You took my money. Now I realize I overpaid. He didn't know there was a na, which would facilitate, which would trigger the mechila. There was no mechila at all. So of course he has a right to take it back. So it's not a kasha of Nachman. On the other hand, you can't prove anything from islandess to Rav Nachman. It's not a mechila betos. It's not a mistaken forgiveness. She willingly wants him to have the peiros. The nicha, la, the tepik Allah, shma de ishus. So even though she knows this marriage is not really holding, it's not really true, but even if it will be discovered, right, that she was an islandess and right, all that, but she's okay. That temporarily she's by him, and tepik Allah, shma de ishus. She'll get sort of labeled as a married woman. Right? So it's worth it for her. She's treated like a married woman, which gives her, added status and stature and respect. So she's willingly paying for that. It's a trade-off. It's not mechila, it's not tos. and therefore he has a right to keep the peiros without repayment. Okay, let's recap today's daf. We discussed the idea of a tanai. Who's going to make the tanai? The right person has to make the tanai, otherwise it doesn't really stick. We discussed the sugya of asmachta kanya, asmachta loy kanya. So asmachta is something which is sort of an exaggerated promise, and the Gemara does come out that if he says lo yehei lecha peroin ela mizu, that's not called asmachta. That's an outright commitment. That's a reasonable commitment. We had the story about the idis which disappeared. We had the story about the wine, which the Gemara figured was not really an asmachta, but the Gemara did conclude that it is. And then we went into the whole shaila regarding mechila batos. Mechila batos, havi mechila or lo havi mechila. B'suras tovos and atzlacha rabba to you.